Hello everybody. And today I want to talk about how many shrimp should be kept together. Shrimp are very small and have a lower output of metabolic waste than fish, so they can be kept in smaller tanks and in more densely populated conditions. So what exactly does that mean? Basically, that means shrimp eat very little and poop very little, so less in, less out when compared to fish. So that means you can have lots and lots of shrimp in a bigger tank, or you can keep shrimp in a tank that's even smaller than what you could normally keep a fish. I know several people, I don't recommend it, but I know several people who keep shrimp in 1 gallon or even 2 gallon little plastic things, and they do really good with them. Little desktop shrimp things, little 2 gallon or 1.2 gallon. A lot of people will get those little hexagonal plastic deals for betas, and I know of several people who've got shrimp and successfully keep them in those. So that's the best thing about shrimp is you can keep them in really small tanks, or you can keep them in really big tanks. But what I want to talk about today is what is best and what is easiest, and what does some of this stuff mean. So when people are asking the question, how many shrimp should be kept together, they're usually referring to one, how many shrimp should you get to start off with, and or two, how many shrimp is too many shrimp in a tank. So let's get started. So when you're first starting out and you're getting your first shrimp, or you already have shrimp and you're not quite sure how many to get, the simple answer is as many as you can afford. So if you're getting nice shrimp can be kind of expensive, I know. So, but I still always recommend to start off with at least 10. Many of the colonies I have today that I've had for years and years and have sold thousands and thousands of shrimp. You can check out my website, markshellyaquatics.com, if you like anything that you see. So I've made thousands and thousands and thousands of shrimp over the years with starting colonies with just 10 shrimp. So it can be done. But it's easier if you start off with more. And the reason I say at least 10 is because, unfortunately, it's just normal. Shrimp are very tough and hardy when they are settled into their water parameters and how you're keeping them. But there's always an adjustment period, and shrimp they're not sensitive to most things once they're established. But when you first get your shrimp, they're adjusting to a whole new set of circumstances, and shrimp like stability more than anything, so it's perfectly normal to lose some. Now, a lot of times when you get shrimp, you won't be guaranteed a certain sex ratio. Like, you're not guaranteed. A lot of people sell shrimp as unsexed juveniles, and you hope to get what you get. So there's another reason why I say you want at least 10. So if you only get like 1 or 2 males and they die, I know one. The only line I have ever had to get twice, I ended up getting 7 males and 3 females. The first 2 females died within days, and then the last female lived and was buried, and she couldn't have been more than a few days away from having her babies, and I found her dead, buried. So that was a sad day, and that was my Blue Dream line that I got years and years ago, and so I added in some different genetics, and over the years, my Blue Dreams have been one of my most prolific lines. Now, it did take a lot of work to get them to where I wanted them to, where they are now. But that's why I say get as many shrimp as you can possibly afford, because you never really know what you're going to get as far as males and females. There's hardly any sellers that will guarantee the sex ratio. And you're always going to have some, not always, I shouldn't say you're always, but you're likely to have a few to die. So I've got some new shrimp here in the last 6 months or so, and within the first month, it's normal to have an occasional shrimp death when you get new shrimp. But after that, they should be settled in. And if you have any problems after the first month, it's probably not the shrimp, but something you're doing on your end that's causing the issues. And when it comes to the issue of what is too many shrimp, well, that's easy. Unless you're adding shrimp from an outside source, from other tanks like I do in this tank here. That's why I wanted to get some footage of this video of this tank while making this video, because when it comes to too many shrimp, this tank certainly pushes the limits, because I pull shrimp from all over all my tanks that end up in here as my Skittles tank. So what I mean by having too many shrimp, unless you're adding shrimp multiple times, unless you're adding too many shrimp, you don't even have to concern yourself about having too many shrimp. That is because shrimp will only breed out to however many resources there are. It comes down to space, mainly food and resources. And it all comes down to competition for food, pretty much. So that means you get 10 shrimp, put them in a tank, they breed out. You're thinking, ooh, that's getting to be a lot of shrimp. Am I getting too many? Well, what will happen is some will quit breeding out. Well, they'll quit breeding because the babies, there's not enough resources for the females to get buried and make the eggs to become pregnant, or the babies, when they hatch, there's too much competition for food and you'll get very little baby survival. And if you have a way overpacked tank, the shrimp overall will most likely be smaller. So that means your adults won't get as big, the babies won't grow up as fast. So that's why in my tanks, when they get so far along, I like to reset them, because my main concern is breeding as many shrimp as I possibly can. Because, breeding shrimp is my living here. So, the chances are, if you let your shrimp breed out, you will not get the same density as this tank, because I don't think these shrimp would breed out to like they are now if I just left them to breed to their own devices. The only reason I have the kind of population density in this tank that I do is because, again, I'm adding them from all my tanks. So whenever I do a reset of one of my tanks and the shrimp that I want to keep, I put in the various projects, then all the leftover shrimp end up here in the Skittles tank. So that's how I end up with so many shrimp densely populated. And it is also a big 40-gallon breeder tank. So that'll get us to the next point, the next thing I want to talk about, and that is what size tank is best. So like we said earlier, one of the best aspects of keeping shrimp is that you can keep them in a little tiny tank, because they're little, they don't eat a lot, and they don't poop a lot. So you can keep them in the smallest of tanks successfully, I might add. Now, when it comes to the question of which size tank is best, again, it's going to be like, how many shrimp should I start out with? It's how much space and how much expense are you willing to put into your shrimp tank? Now, the name of the game, especially with Neos, it's not about having the perfect water. Neos, they can adjust to many, many different kinds of water, as long as you do it nice and slowly and proper acclimation. Neos can adapt to almost anything. But the whole name of the game is keeping your water as stable as you possibly can. And now keeping stable water is much, much easier in a big tank than it is a little tank. So again, like I said, we're back to the biggest you can afford, the biggest you have the most space for, or the biggest you're willing to donate to shrimp. How much space are you willing to sacrifice to raise these shrimp in? The bigger the tank, I have found, the better the success at breeding shrimp. So in the end, it all boils down to, what are you trying to do? Do you just want to keep a little tank of shrimp on your desk to look at while you're typing on your computer? Or do you want to have a bigger tank and breed as many shrimp as you possibly can to sell for profit, like I do? I started selling to profit, ended up quitting my job. And so now I have a shrimp house and a shrimp backyard now. So in the end, like I said, it's all what you're trying to do. It's your preference. Now, one thing that I don't think changes is you really need at least 10 shrimp to start for the various reasons that I listed. Some shrimp die. You don't know what the male to female ratio you're going to get. And so those are things you really need to worry about. But you don't have to worry about the shrimp breeding out too much. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, there's too many of them. Because they'll just quit breeding. And then over time, some will die of old age. Maybe you sell scoop out to your buddy, give your buddy some coals, and as soon as their numbers start dwindling down again, you'll start seeing buried ones again. I've seen it tons and tons of times with all the shrimp tanks I got. They'll get fully cram packed. When you quit seeing all the females being buried, that's when I do a reset, because I know this tank has pretty much reached its limit, and the name of my game is breeding as many shrimp as possible. Now, if you're not into that game and you're just enjoying your shrimp, don't sweat it. You got shrimp crawling all over every plant, all over everything in your tank. Don't worry about it. As long as you keep doing what you've done to get them to that point, you're doing it right, and the shrimp will take care of themselves. That's shrimp keeping is so awesome. The shrimp, you learn so much about natural ecosystems and the balance of life, the balance of nutrients, the balance of food, water parameters, plants. It all plays into it all goes into this big stew, and then whatever happens, happens. And there's reasons for that. And I'm still discovering those things as I go along here. And as long as I'm doing this, I'm sure I'll always be learning. And so that's how, get at least 10 shrimp to start, and don't sweat breeding too much. And get the biggest tank you're willing to put towards shrimp. Shrimping is, I think, shrimping can be a little more difficult, but once you get it dialed in and get it all figured out, the first 6 months to a year figuring all this out can be tricky. But once you have a system figured out and dialed in, your shrimp are breeding, just enjoy it. Quit worrying about having too many shrimp. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.